Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Whatever I'm going to say in this review, it's not going to change your plans for the movie if you have already bought the tickets. But this review exists so that आप अपनी expectations को थोड़ा सा adjust कर लीजिए, because it's not going to go the way you thought. Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker is supposed to be the conclusion, the complete Skywalker saga, which starts from episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. And it's also a conclusion to the modern trilogy of episodes 7, 8 and 9. So director J.J. Abrams had a lot to accomplish in this movie. Let me start with the positives about this movie, because there's a lot to talk about in this movie. The acting is really good in this movie. I think Adam Driver has actually given his career best performances. You can see the nuances in his character, the difficulty that he is going through from episode 7, moving on to 8, concludes in episode 9. I may not like the choices that they have taken with his character, but yeah, I do really appreciate the acting which Adam Driver has performed to give you this character to the screen. Because let me just put it out there, episode 7 and episode 8, and maybe to a certain extent episode 9, Kylo Ren is actually my favorite character. I love the character of Kylo Ren and the way it has been portrayed by Adam Driver. Now Daisy Ridley is another great job in this movie. She has done absolutely what was demanded of her. All the other actors are really fitting and perfectly cast to all their roles. Whatever was given to them in this movie, they have accomplished that. And they have used Carrie Fisher really well. I know the tragedy that went through before this movie was starting to begin. Carrie Fisher passed away, but they decided to use her unused footage from episode 7 to recreate her character in this movie. And I think they did as best as they could. हम आप उसको जिंदा तो नहीं कर सकते थे. And CGI Carrie Fisher, that would have killed the mood right away. But they found a great midway, and जो footage Carrie Fisher की use की है और जिस तरीके से use की है, it's perfectly fitting. You can't actually see what the actual scene was, but they have reused it very well. All the new characters that they have added, some of them I really love. If I name the characters or what they do, it's going to be a bit of spoiler, so while we are in the non-spoiler part, let me just not name them. Next thing to talk about is the cinematography. That is a real positive of this movie. The cinematography is perfect. The scenes that they have created, the set pieces that they have used, whatever they have shown, it's done brilliantly. We all know the scenes from the trailers. Just extrapolate them to a movie scale and it is brilliant. The camera work is great, the lighting is great, and the scenes that they create, the tension that they build is really working when you are sitting in that theater. The lightsaber fights are really good. Yeah, I've heard some of the reviews in which they say that even the lightsaber fights are boring. I don't feel that way because I enjoyed the hell out of them. Next, talking about the score. Who can forget the brilliant John Williams and his Star Wars score? It has been recreated. Some old music has been reused in this movie, and the score fits perfectly fine. All throughout the movie, I was actually feeling like this is a Star Wars movie, and that's particularly because of the score. If you don't hear the regular sound beats that you have associated with Star Wars in the right places, then that kills your mood of Star Wars. Yes, there is no particularly new score to episode 9, but what all score that they have got, what all themes that they use, they actually fit perfectly well in this movie. So there's no iconic new score, but yes, whatever they have is working brilliantly. Now let's come to the negatives, because yes, there are major negatives on this movie. When they started planning about this movie, I think J.J. Abrams had to do two things. See, episode 7 was directed by J.J. Abrams, so he had planned the way in which episode 7, 8 and 9 would go. But then they brought in Rian Johnson to direct episode 8. So he made his vision of how he wanted Star Wars to go in episode 8. And Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams are two completely different directors. I mean, we have all seen the previous works of Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams is sort of the director that he recreates something old, but in a familiar sort of way. Rian Johnson, he challenges the audience, creates something new, something inventive, something bold, and takes you in a path that you didn't think you wanted to go. So in episode 9, they had a really big job to do, because I think what J.J. Abrams has made is the spiritual successor to his story that he created in episode 7, and the successor to what Rian Johnson created in episode 8. And then he had to create the episode 9 that he wanted to create. So it's amalgamation of episodes, the story where it's going from episode 7, the story where it's going from episode 8, and the episode 9 that he actually wanted to create. So at times it feels messy. It's really fast paced for a movie, and at times that is detrimental to the storyline that we are following over here. Some of the story beats that they have used is not fitting well in this movie, and I don't really see why they brought on that point of view or that character or that plot point. I mean, the story didn't actually need it, but okay, I'll go with it. And some of those story choices that they have used here are not really challenging you. They are old story beats reused in a typical J.J. Abrams sort of way. I mean, that worked in episode 7 because you had to give audience a sort of familiarity, the nostalgic vibe. You had to introduce that within the audience, because there had been a lot of time passed after episode 3 and episode 7. Yeah, the timeline is a bit off. We all know that. If you've seen Star Wars, you all know that. The thing is, that punch of nostalgia was not needed throughout this movie. I mean, I get it. Nostalgia is great, but it can be done subtly, and you have to stop at a certain point. You just don't have to keep smashing nostalgia down people's throat. I mean, that's what this movie sort of feels like, because everything is just reused, rehashed, story beats from the previous movies that we have already seen, episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, even 7 and 8 to a certain point. Basically, what I feel about this movie in the end is, even if they wanted to do this storyline in this particular way, what they should have done is spread it out. I mean, this feels like a maybe 4 or a 6-hour movie that has been crammed down into 2 hours to make it one single movie. I mean, they had to do all of that. Basically, ये लगता है जैसे Game of Thrones का season 8. Whatever you thought about season 8 of Game of Thrones, if you liked it or you didn't like it, basically we all can agree on one thing, that season 8 was rushed. I mean, even if they wanted to do the same storyline which they showed in season 8, if they would have spread it out between 1 or 2 seasons, a complete seasons of 10 episodes each, then I think all the storyline that they wanted to show would have been working perfectly and people would have loved it. But just because they crammed it into 6 episodes of one season, it felt rushed. Things just meshed together. Story arcs didn't have a fulfilling ending. Character arcs that didn't complete. The same thing is happening in this movie. The Rise of Skywalker feels rushed many times. I mean, there are so many jump cuts, so many transitions from one place to another. At a certain point, you actually get confused. Okay, why are we here? Or what are we doing here? Why is this scene happening? That is it. But all in all, while you're sitting in the theater, you really enjoy the experience. So as I've seen in many reviews all throughout the day, I can say 2-3 things particularly well. It's a really enjoyable experience while you are in the theater. If you liked episode 7, you'll really like this movie. If you loved episode 8, I don't think you'll like this movie that much. But if you are a casual fan of Star Wars who liked episode 7, episode 8 and whatever they did with the story, I think you'll really like this movie. Because I really like this movie. I'm a fan of episode 7. I'm a fan of episode 8. I didn't love this movie, but yeah, I think it's on par with episode 8. So all in all, I must say, I really like this movie and it's a really good time inside the theater, even if you don't like what they are doing with the story. So what did you think about Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Have you seen it? Or are you planning to see it? Whatever you think, please write it down in the comment section below and just let me know, and we can have a quick chat right there and then. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it for some weird odd reason, give it a thumbs down. And if you want to see more from our channel, hit the subscribe button and that notification bell so that you will be notified whenever a new video drops. Till that happens, my name is Puneet and you're watching the Afterthoughts Network. Bye bye.